What's up, y'all? Welcome into Grand City Media's Draft Board Breakdown podcast presented by Southland. I'm Lang Whitaker, joined today by Michael Wallace, and we've been going through all these different players and possibilities and things that could happen in the draft. Gary Parrish and I did the whole mock draft and everything else. And now Memphis Grizzlies have the 16th pick in the first round, so we wanted to pivot and look at some possibilities for the Grizzlies with that 16th overall pick. The draft's coming up, of course, June 25th. You can watch live coverage on Grand City Media that night. Will be a live show from here in the studio. But before we get to that, we got to get to some players that the Grizzlies might be looking at with that 16th overall pick, Michael. And it's a lot of different ways this thing could go. And I think we still don't know really kind of if the Grizzlies are done with moves this summer or before the draft.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, the Grizzlies went from not even having a first-round pick, so that means you're not necessarily bringing in top talent to work them out here, to interview them here, to all of a sudden you made the trade for Desmond Bane and sent him to Orlando. You trade for the number 16 pick right outside the lottery, and now you got to rush a bunch of guys in here.
Yeah.
And so even with that, the way the roster is constructed right now, you do need another shooter.
Yeah.
You do need some help on the wing. And then you also need some depth up front. So they can go any direction at number 16. And fortunately, Lang, in this draft, at that range, you're going to have an awful lot of options, and we'll cover a few of them today. Yeah,
well, let's start with that 16th pick, the Grizzlies. You gave me a couple names of guys that could be in the mix. Who knows? But guys who fit sort of what we've seen from the Grizzlies, what they're looking for. And the first name you gave me on your list was Jase Richardson out of Michigan State. Yeah,
Jase Richardson, he trends young. He's a one-year guy. So, when you talk about Grizzlies president of basketball operations, Zach Kleiman, saying that they want not necessarily to get younger, but this is an intriguing guy. He's one of those combo guards, sort of in that Scottie Pippen mode. Now, that trade brought in, Cole Anthony, and they still have Scottie Pippen Jr. there. But if they move either one of those guys, this is the kind of guy that you want to have back there. He's that dog defensively. He can shoot. He's a combo guard. He reminds me a lot of what the Philadelphia 76ers did decades ago when they had Allen Iverson and then they drafted Lou Williams, right? They brought Lou Williams in. This will be sort of the Lou Williams complement to Ja Morant's Allen Iverson from that standpoint. You see the explosive ability to get above the rim right there. You need that kind of spark coming off of your bench, and it just depends on where the Grizzlies want to go. But that's certainly a guy that factors in that range, in that mid first round range.
That Sixers team, they also had Dikembe Mutombo, though.
As a shot
some
blocker.
Size. They had some big size and to help on defense.
Yeah.
The one thing Gary pointed out when we talked about Jase Richardson in a previous podcast was that he started the year on Michigan State's bench and ended as their best player. So he's not afraid to put in the work to figure out how he can improve, how he can get better.
Who does that sound like on the Grizzlies?
I mean, a lot of guys, but Ja Morant, somebody like that, or Jalen Wells.
But Scottie, Jalen Wells started, but Scottie Pippen started as a backup and ended up being, by the time that last playoff game was there, he was a 30-point scorer.
But the thing that scares me about that is Scottie Pippen is 6'1". That's Ja 6'3".
Yeah.
At the NBA Combine, Jase Richardson measured 6 feet without shoes on. So, you've already got some small – Cole Anthony's not a real tall guy either. So, you've already got some size issues you got to figure out. And going after a Jase Richardson might sort of
duplicate,
not really help.
It'll duplicate.
That size problem.
But why I have him in there in the mix is because best on the board or best available on the board, he can fit that mode there. But he also could be an option if there's some more movement between now and Wednesday. You know what I mean? June 25th, when these picks have to be made. There could be some more trades and some more maneuvering. So that's not necessarily the biggest need because of what you already have on the roster. But if there's any more movement, this is a guy you might not want to let slip too far down the board.
Yeah. So when Gary and I did our mock draft originally, the Orlando Magic had the 16th pick in the first round.
Yeah.
I drafted for the Magic, and I had him taking Nique Clifford out of Colorado State, who people in Memphis will remember from the NCAA tournament when he kind of showed what he could do on that wing. Yeah. Talking about a wing who gives you a little bit more size than a Jase Richardson, and seems like a little bit older than some of these guys, and could be a good fit for this Grizzlies team.
Yeah, he could be. You see his scoring ability right there, his rebounding. He's a double-double guy. He also can pass the ball around too. To me, he's sort of – I have him there because he's sort of a poor man's – when you look at, kind of the versatility that he gives you some range. He's not necessarily Jalen Wells because I think he's a little more athletic and a little more of a playmaker than that. But he gives you, a little bit of a Swiss Army knife feel. And that's the sense I was going for right there. He's a winner. He's a older guy. He's a guy that you can plug right into around these guys right now on this roster, and he can perform. So, a lot of people look at, what you need, and he doesn't have a deficiency of what he can give you in terms of where he lines up.
The number that jumps out to me on those stats is the 9 whatever rebounds per game.
Yeah.
Because Desmond Bane, you kind of forget, he averaged 6 rebounds.
He did. He was a good rebounding guard.
He's a very good rebounding guard, and you're losing that. You're losing size with Des Leafs, and you're losing shooting. But Bennett and I talked about on one of the other shows. You're losing a lot of shooting, that possibility this summer with other moves that could happen. If Santi Aldama comes back, if Luke Kennard comes back, Dez is already your best shooter.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of shooting that's kind of on the table. And I think Nique Clifford could sort of solve a lot of those questions if he's still there at 16.
And his ability to be a versatile guy also gives you some length defensively too. There's a lot of where Jake LaRavia got to right before he was traded is a lot of what Nique can bring too. Sort of the same size, sort of doing it all from that standpoint. He will dive on the floor, he will hustle. And that Colorado State team played with some pace too.
Yeah.
So they knew how to get up and down. They were constantly attacking. And the one thing that the Memphis Tigers ran into with that Colorado State team was that they ran phenomenal actions every single time. Yeah. So he's used to being off ball and on ball. So he can be versatile from that standpoint. That would be an ideal pick in that range. That could be the guy. If we wake up or go to bed Wednesday night on the draft night and that's the guy the Grizzlies pick, I think a lot of people will feel happy in this building.
One other thing about Jase Richardson that just occurred to me is this Grizzlies front office seems to love children of NBA players.
Yeah.
Jaren Jackson Jr., Cole Anthony, Scottie Pippen Jr., and then Jase Richardson, who seems to fit in that mold too.
Yeah, it just reminds us how old we are because we covered all of their dads.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? So that just tells you how old we are, man.
Another player who you put on your list of short list of guys who might be interesting is Carter Bryant out of Arizona. Bigger guy, not really a guard, more of a wing type player. Didn't have the biggest numbers this year at Arizona, but just a year from being a McDonald's All-American.
He came off the bench for Arizona, got off to a slow start, played limited minutes, was more of a reserve, but he's one of those guys that's going to project better in the NBA because of what he gives you. He kind of reminds me of a guy that, and I'm trying to make comps to guys that are already in the league that does a little bit of everything. And, Fred Jones, not Fred Jones Jr., but the Clippers wing. Derek Jones Jr. Yeah. He kind of reminds me of that because of the explosiveness that he has in his game. He's a 3-and-D kind of guy from that standpoint. But again, the timeline. He's one of the younger players on the board. And do the Grizzlies want to go back and say, okay, let's develop this guy for a year or two and see where he is? But when you look at Tuomas Isolo's system, he wants guys that can shoot, pass, dribble, and move. Yeah. And this is one of those guys that can do that in space.
Gary had this guy high on his.
He is. He's projecting top 10, 12-ish now. Yeah. And he might slip depending on what else happens in the first round because there's always some guys that are going to back down from 8, 9, 10 and maybe fall 14, 15, 16.
I think if he's the guy who's there at 16, you kind of can't pass him up. Because all the measurables on Carter Bryant are like through the roof and everything else. So.
And if nothing else, he's an asset too. He's a guy that you can stockpile and say, okay, if we do make trades and we need veteran help and we're dealing with teams that want younger guys, we can make some moves from that standpoint.
And last guy on this list, the other thing that the Grizzlies have sort of found out over this offseason is Zach Edey had surgery. So Zach Edey may not be back for the start of the season. It's sort of open-ended as to when we'll see him back on the court. Which means the Grizzlies are going to need some help in that front court. Rebounding's always been an issue for this Grizzlies team. To find a big guy who can help out and do something, and that brings us to Maxime Raynaud from Stanford.
Yeah, he's a big body, obviously 7'1", a good catch and shoot guy, so he gives you that element. He's a phenomenal rebounder for his size as well too. But he plays in the half court. He can set a massive screen, and that's what you need right now because the Grizzlies don't have a lot of bigs that are capable of setting screens to help get the guards downhill. And when you look at Donovan Clingan and what Clingan kind of brought to what the Grizzlies wanted last year, they ended up with Edey. He's more in the Clingan role from that standpoint, but he has a better skill set. And as you see from the clips here, he's explosive in terms of going to the rim. But his screen setting is going to be what sets him apart if he can get into that system, and he won't be a guy that you want to sneeze at or let pass on the board either. So you're in a great range if you're the Grizzlies.
Yeah, the thing with Raynaud to me is I think he averaged 6 3-point shots a game last season and shot like 40%, 35%. He's a good 3-point shooter for that size. Sort of like what the Grizzlies were trying to make Zach Edey do last year. Like he can do that.
But he's
on the
more of a
offensive
natural.
end.
He's more of a natural at that because he's already been conditioned to do that. Whereas Edey was more conditioned to be in the post and had to learn to work his way out.
Yeah.
You know, Max is a guy he already has that face-up game.
Yeah.
And when you put him in the screen package, he can pop and hit the three, or he can roll to the rim and get you the lob dunks. And that's why, again, he was intriguing, and he's a guy on the list right there for me as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, right now there are more questions than there are answers, and we'll find out all these answers on draft night, June 25th. You can watch us live again on Grind City Media that night as we watch the whole first round of the draft with you. And you can watch all these old podcasts with myself, Michael Wallace, Gary Parrish here on Grind City Media's Draft Board Breakdown presented by Southland. Appreciate you watching. See you on draft night.